It weighs as much as a small truck. It can outrun a human on land. And despite eating only plants, it kills more people in Africa than lions, crocodiles, and leopards combined. This is the hippopotamus. And over the next 10 minutes, you're going to witness its entire life, from a fragile birth hidden underwater, to a violent, high-stakes fight for survival, to the quiet, inevitable end that awaits every giant of the river. This is the full life story of the hippopotamus, birth to death. A hippo's life doesn't begin on land, it begins underwater. After a pregnancy that lasts roughly 8 months, a female hippo, called a cow, gives birth either in shallow water or on the riverbank, often isolating herself from the rest of the group for safety. The newborn calf weighs between 50 and 100 pounds, already bigger than most adult humans at birth. Within moments, instinct takes over. The calf must learn to hold its breath, surface for air, and swim, all before it can properly walk. For the first few days, the mother stays fiercely close, guarding her baby from the two greatest threats to a newborn hippo: crocodiles lurking in the shallows, and adult male hippos who see no problem in trampling a calf that gets too close to their territory. For the next several weeks, the calf nurses both underwater and on land, closing its ears and nostrils automatically each time it dips beneath the surface, a reflex it's born with, not one it has to learn. This is one of nature's most remarkable adaptations, a baby that can nurse while submerged, popping up for air every few seconds without even breaking rhythm. By around 1 month old, the calf begins nibbling on grass, slowly transitioning toward the diet that will sustain it for the rest of its life. And here's something most people don't know. Despite living in water most of the day, hippos are not natural swimmers in the traditional sense. They're too dense to float. Instead, they walk or push off the riverbed, gliding through the water in a strange, graceful bounce. The calf spends its early life mastering this movement, staying close to its mother's side, often riding on her back when the water gets too deep. For protection, hippo mothers and calves live within a group called a bloat or pod, anywhere from 10 to 30 hippos sharing the same stretch of river. This isn't really a close-knit family in the way we think of wolves or elephants. It's more like a crowded apartment building. Everyone tolerates each other because there's safety in numbers, but tensions are always simmering just below the surface. As the calf grows, it spends most daylight hours submerged, conserving energy and staying cool under the brutal African sun. Hippos can't sweat like humans. Instead, their skin secretes a natural reddish oily substance, sometimes called blood sweat, which acts as both sunscreen and an antibacterial shield. It's one of the reasons hippos can survive long hours in water that would infect an open wound on almost any other animal within days. By night, the real work begins. Once darkness falls, hippos leave the water entirely and go on long grazing journeys, sometimes walking up to 6 miles inland to feed on grass. An adult hippo can eat around 80 pounds of vegetation in a single night. This is when the calf learns to forage, following its mother's exact path, memorizing safe trails that hippos will use for generations. But growing up isn't peaceful. As young males mature, they start testing their strength, play fighting that grows more serious with age. By the time a male hippo reaches sexual maturity, around 7 to 9 years old, he'll either need to challenge the dominant bull of his group, or leave and search for territory of his own. This is where the hippopotamus reveals the side that makes it one of the most feared animals in Africa. Adult male hippos are fiercely territorial over water, not land, water. A dominant bull will patrol and mark his stretch of river, and any rival male who crosses that line is challenged immediately. These fights are brutal. Hippos possess massive canine teeth that can grow over a foot long, and their jaws can open at nearly a 180-degree angle, wide enough to swallow a full-grown human whole, though they don't actually eat meat. These teeth exist purely for combat. Rival males slam their jaws into each other's necks and flanks, sometimes fighting for hours, leaving both animals covered in deep, scarring wounds. Many of these battles end in serious injury, some end in death. The winner earns the right to mate with females in his territory and father the next generation, meaning every calf born into that pod carries the legacy of a fight most of them will never witness, but all of them depend on. Once established, an adult hippo's life settles into a rhythm, sleeping and cooling off in the water by day, grazing on land by night, defending territory when challenged. Adult males can weigh up to 3,500 to 4,000 pounds, females slightly less. Despite that massive size, hippos can run up to 20 miles per hour in short bursts on land, faster than most humans can sprint. This combination of size, speed, aggression, and territorial instinct is exactly why the hippopotamus is responsible for an estimated 500 human deaths per year across Africa, more than any other large animal on the continent. Most attacks happen when boats accidentally drift into a hippo's territory, or when people unknowingly walk between a hippo and its escape route back to water. It's rarely about hunting, it's about a wild animal defending its space with overwhelming force. Within their pods, hippos will live for decades, forming a strange social order that's part truce, part hierarchy. Females bond loosely for protection. Males tolerate each other only as long as boundaries are respected. In the wild, hippos can live between 40 and 50 years, a surprisingly long lifespan for such a dangerous existence. But as a hippo ages, its body starts working against it. Teeth wear down or break from decades of fighting. Old injuries from territorial battles turn into chronic pain or infection. Aging bulls eventually lose the strength to defend their territory, and when that happens, a younger, hungrier male often forces them out. An aging hippo that loses its territory faces a harsh new reality. No safe stretch of water, no guaranteed food, increased vulnerability to crocodiles, disease, and starvation during droughts. Drought, in particular, is one of the greatest throes later in life. When rivers shrink, hippos are forced into overcrowded pools, increasing conflict, disease spread, and competition for dwindling food. Eventually, whether from old age, injury, disease, or a final territorial battle it can no longer win, the hippopotamus's life comes to an end. In the wild, death often comes swiftly. A badly wounded or weakened hippo becomes vulnerable to predators, or simply succumbs to infection from old wounds that never fully healed. When a hippo dies in or near the water, its massive body becomes an unexpected gift to the ecosystem. Crocodiles, vultures, and other scavengers feed on the carcass for weeks. Even in death, the hippopotamus continues to shape the food web of the river it called home for its entire life, and so the cycle continues. Somewhere along that same riverbank, a new calf is being born underwater right now, beginning the exact same journey, from a fragile first breath, to a fight for dominance, to a long reign over its stretch of river, and eventually, to its own final day. That's the full life story of the hippopotamus, one of nature's most misunderstood giants. If you learned something new today, hit subscribe, because we're covering the life cycle of another incredible animal next week. Let me know in the comments which one you want to see. Thanks for watching.